You're listening to CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living. To learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures cast is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phone. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, team? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas.
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.CFRN.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.CFRN.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Monday, 9th day of March, 2020. And quite a day it is. Thanks so much for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. If you can't see the screen I have up, go to our home page at CFRN.net. On the right-hand side of the page, click the big microphone. Follow the instructions. You'll be registered in about 30 seconds, and that will give you one-click access to the show each and every day. On the days you're out of the office, away from the desktop, not to worry, point any internet-connected browser to CFRN.net/live, and there you'll find a live, real-time simulcast of the show. You'll also find us streaming live each and every day on YouTube at youtube.com/CFRN/live, on Twitter, on our Facebook business page, and we're still working out our encoding software issue with TradingView, but going forward, as soon as we get that worked out, we will be streaming the show live each and every day on TradingView. We had a test run last week and still have some connection issues, but the folks there on their team, and they have an excellent team, they're working on it to get it corrected, and you'll be the first to know as soon as it happens. Now, we've changed the format because of the addition of TradingView to the platform, but because we still don't have that issue resolved, what we're going to do today is we're going to have Michael just come on first, do the recap like he normally does. There were connection issues this morning in the live training room, and he'll go over that with you. Garrett is going to join us here in about 10 minutes or so. John will be joining us. So let me give you the numbers from around the world just real quick and put things in perspective, and then Michael will pop in and do the recap. And then, of course, I'll go over Concierge Trade Alerts, Logic 247, as I normally do, based on what's happened. All right, here we go. Let me refresh this data. And it changes by the second. All right, the Dow currently down 1,237 points. That's almost 5%. NASDAQ down 336 points. That's almost 4%. S&P 500 down 136 points. That's almost 5%. And the Russell 2000 is down 87 points. That's a little over 6%. In the commodity basket today, crude oil down $7.19, trading 34.09 last. That's a drop of 17.5%. Gold down $7.10, trading 1665.30 last. In the Asian markets, at the close, Nikkei posted a loss of 1,050, 5%. Shanghai dropped 91, 3%. And the Hang Seng lost 1,106 points, taking it down 4.25% on the day. And in the European markets at the close, the FTSE was down 418 points, 6.5%. DAX was down 749, 6.5%. And the CAC down 347. That's a drop of 6.5%. Now, Michael, if you're ready, you can pop right on in here and do the recap if you would like. I don't know if you're logged in yet. I sent you a message. Okay, we'll take that as a no. All right, then let's just pull up a daily chart of the S&P 500. And if John's already on board, I'll go ahead and get his mic open since Michael's not here. Okay, I don't see John in the wings any either. So I guess we'll just move along. Garrett will be here in a moment because I just spoke with him. All right, here's where we are on the S&P 500. Now, I'm using the continuous chart because I want to be able to show you more data than you can see with just the H contract. Now, no matter what platform you're using today, chances are you've had data issues, you've had connectivity issues. That's what happens in this kind of a market. Now, we talked for a long time about December of 2018 being the worst December since 1932. And as my charts attempt to comply, here it is. Okay. Here's the beginning of the month. There's that little doji right up there. That printed on December 3rd. The swing high that day was 28.14. And the swing low for the month of December was 2308.40. Now if I can open it up a little bit so that you can see it. Let me show you what happened on the day after Christmas. After the worst December. Are you here now, Michael?
Yeah, I'm in.
Okay.
My part's going to be really quick because
Yeah, I know.
lost my
That's why I thought I would just bring you on, let you get that out of the way, because Garrett's going to come on, and I assume John's coming on. So go ahead and take it away. And then, guys, we'll pick up with this daily chart when I come back.
Okay. Yeah, I was up till midnight last night with one of my friends up north. He was panicked because, he's got millions of dollars in it, and well.
Okay, it's all yours.
A lot of it. Okay. All right, here, let me go through the spreadsheet first. Okay. Go away all the time. There it is. Okay. All right. So we were able to get a few trades off today. 6 trades, in fact. But let me go through the whole thing. If you're going to read the spreadsheet, you're going to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Good afternoon, everybody. Today is Monday, the 9th day of March 2020. The Ides of March. Anyway, we made 10 ticks in crude and 40 ticks in gold, and we did that in 22 minutes. The markets were just nuts this morning. So we picked up $500 a contract this morning. We did all that in 22 minutes. Today it took 3 minutes and 1 trade to get the gold for the day, and we're at $100 a contract on that. Then we traded 5 more times, and we picked up another $400 a contract. So on the month right now, we're up $2,732. That's over 6 days, averaging $455 per contract per day. Per contract per day. On the year now, we're at $9,685. That's over 42 days, averaging $230 per day. Now that's 2 hours, 1 contract daily. If you have not taken a free trial with us, I don't think I have it going right now. If you have not taken a free trial with us, go to the homepage here at CFRN.net. Over here in the right-hand column, it says apply.cfrn.net. If you click on that, you will be brought to, well, that or that. You'll be brought to this page where all we ask for is your name, your email, and your phone number. And you can tell us the biggest trading challenge so we can tailor one-on-one training just for you. Click on that, hit send, and you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on the confirmation link, okay? If you don't click the confirmation link, we don't know that you took the free trial. So you got to do that. All right. Now, I only traded gold and crude today, and I'm pretty sure my drawing objects disappeared. But in the gap last night, you can see I'm disconnected. So I'll just say on gold, in the first 22 minutes, we picked up 40 ticks on gold. I think we picked up 10 here, probably 10 there, 10 there, 10 there, and 10 there. Because it was 9:52 when my connection problems started. All right, but there was a ton of opportunity in that half an hour right there. I mean, you can see how much opportunity there was. Now the problem was the DOMs. They had spreads. So that meant, if you got into a trade with an 8-tick risk, it had to go immediately in your direction. Otherwise, you might have gotten stopped out right away. Okay. And we traded crude and we picked up 10 ticks right here on crude. Okay. And again, that was right before 9:52. Well, actually 9:53 when everything finally shut off. But at 9:52 it started. And then it was going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I got nothing. The ES, as you know, was closed until about 9:50. Okay, then they opened it back up. It was down here. I wasn't watching it when they opened it back up. But tomorrow, when everything hopefully gets back a little bit to normal, I can go over in more detail what to anticipate. Like for gold, the gap in the gold was up here where this brown line is right here. The gap in the euro has not been filled. The gap in the gold has. The gap in the crude, I'm not sure if it has or hasn't. I can't do anything without data. So, and the gap in the ES, I think that was getting filled. But there were huge gaps last night. And I was up till midnight looking at them and explaining them. But that's all I got. That's all I got for today, guys. I can't do much when I can't connect. So if you want to go and take a free trial with us, go to eminitrainingschool.com. Over here, put in your name, your email, your phone number. Tell us your biggest trading challenge so we can tailor one-on-one training just for you. Hit the send button and you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on the confirmation link. Okay. Once you do that, we know you took the free trial and we can send you all the information you need. Today, as I said, is the 9th day of March, 2020. We picked up 10 ticks on crude and 40 ticks on gold. Put us at plus 500. Today it took 3 minutes and 1 trade to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up $100 a contract. And on a month now, we're up $2,732 per contract in 2 hours per day. That's over 6 days, averaging $455 per contract per day. On the year, we're now at $96.85. That's over 42 days, averaging $230 per contract per 2 hour day. All right. And that's it. With that, we can pass it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona, overlooking South Mountain, Studio A, America's largest city park. Dwayne, if you are ready. Okay, let me just look and see who's in here. John's in, so I can open up John's mic. And John, you have an open mic right now. And I don't see Garrett in here yet. But it was fun while it lasted this morning. I have several different accounts. And 2 out of 3 of them at Gain Capital will not connect. It's just been an interesting morning. Let me try it again right now. Hey, it connected. Okay, so I guess I can show you a little bit more. You see this dotted brown line right here is where price was when, it's where price was when the gap happened, right? So it was Friday's close, really, is what the dotted green line is. I mean, the dotted brown line. And so you can see there was just a ton of activity, a ton of movement, and we got back to it. Now on the euro, the dotted brown line, I'm going to go to a different time frame. Hey, John.
Hi.
How are you doing? Okay, on the euro, the dotted brown line is down here at 30.10. We haven't gotten back to it yet. Okay, but I suspect it will over the next couple of days. Usually it happens within hours when we get a huge gap like that. But crude still hasn't made it back up. Crude's got to make it all the way back up here to 41.30, and it's trying, but it's got a lot of work to do there. The ES is right at it right now, so the ES filled its gap, and now it's getting really choppy right at the gap. So, days like today, smaller time frames are tough. But yeah, the S filled the gap. Okay, on to you, John. Garrett's coming on too.
Okay, great.
So Garrett,
thank you. with the rally we had on Friday, certainly came on right, just perfect. And you know what? I realized, after the show, and actually before the rally, that it was the anniversary of the, March the 6th, 2009. And remember how we talked about the last hour?
Mhm.
How it started rallying around 3 o'clock. Actually, it was 3:20. Some stocks started rallying early on March the 6th, 2009, and that's the same thing happened on Friday. As a matter of fact, I got a buy signal on Zoom at about 1:30, and it was about 7.5, and it finished at 14. And today I actually had Zoom earmarked for a buy after, off the open.
Mhm.
And it has skyrocketed upwards today, which is pretty impressive. We also had INO targeted for a sell today, and it has for a short actually, and it crashed down, considerably, as a lot of these high flyer stocks did. I think the trick, or the fact that it didn't open crazily higher was a hint that maybe there was going to be a pullback. And I noticed that some of the other stocks that I don't have much confidence in, these drug stocks, were looking kind of weak. They weren't kind of like a bit up crazily. And the big surprise actually was Guild, which was a tremendous performer on Friday, closed right on the high. We talked about that, and they knocked it. Guild came in down, and they knocked it down quite a bit this morning. It's come back since, but the fact that Guild was off was kind of I guess the market was saying, no matter if they've got the cure for this thing, it's a bit overdone kind of thing. So as you know, on Friday we talked about the TVIX and the UVXY sort of being a kind of a fear bubble, which it was. But if you remember, we also looked at 2018, and the first time that happened, the market actually went to a higher high. Even though it kind of closed down, the market went roaring up. So there was a kind of a similar thing happened, and right after I actually nailed the bottom of the Nasdaq on Friday. I'm really pleased about that. I got in really low and rode the market mostly up to the highs. And after the fact that it sold off again, just like it did a couple of days previously, right after the going into the close, kind of gave me a bad feeling. And we have this kind of zigzag, and it felt to me like we were going to go down lower. And unfortunately, last night the markets came in sharply lower because of this oil war going on between Putin. It's basically between Russia, Saudi Arabia, and the US. Putin's trying to put the shale drillers out of business. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Trump is going to probably bail out the oil companies if he has to maintain production and dominance. I don't think they want to be importing any oil anytime soon. However, a friend of mine told me a kind of a brilliant idea today, which would be a pretty good time to buy to boost up the strategic oil reserves. Maybe you could buy $1 billion worth of oil at a certain fixed price, get the market back up, help the drillers out. Would be a pretty good idea. The problem with the drillers is that there is a cost of production that's fairly high. Saudi Arabia, some people say it's $5 a barrel, and it's probably more like 10 or 20, but they've got enough profit in their production to kind of put the rest of the world out of business. But
and they've pretty much got everything all streamlined over there anyway.
And I think in Russia, a lot of the Russian production's kind of not probably between the US and Russia. It's not as low as Saudi Arabia, I don't think. But I think Putin could be taking on a lot of risk here, because the Russian economy, while it's recovered from this last deal after the annex of the Crimea and crack in oil prices before, Russia cut the Russian economy in half. The Russian economy was more than 2 trillion, and basically got cut in half, and it's certainly recovered some of that, maybe 30, 40, 50% of it. But they're going to have a big problem again because of this. So it's a pretty dangerous game for him in terms of what might happen. Similar to what's going on in China with Xi. These sort of dictators for life have a way of maybe exiting the scene sooner than expected. Nothing is sure in life, and sometimes these guys get a bit too, carried away with their longevity, and it could come back to backfire on them. So I guess the good news is the Chinese, if they're telling us the truth, the Chinese new infections are almost negligible, and the recoveries are really quite dramatic. They're still continuing to go up quite markedly every day. They're around 62,000 right now. So the net, and unfortunately the rest of the world is in a kind of an exponential up mode, where the rate, the recovery, I think the infections are outpacing the recoveries a little bit at the moment. Maybe by 5,000 or so over the week, or something like that, maybe 5 or 10. Not too drastic just yet, but obviously it's a real concern. I just found out yesterday that my sister, look, the swine flu is probably just as bad as this thing, and it might have even been more infectious, because the swine flu got off the ground pretty quickly, not quite as fast as this one, but by the first month I think it was at 100,000, and in the next 11 months, a year later, was at 60 million. And one of the people infected was my sister, I just found out, and she was able to beat it with a homeopathic treatment. So that's kind of remarkable, because I would say they're probably in the same league, and there's a relatively few deaths at the moment, and that's unfortunate. And we obviously feel for everybody who's affected by it. But as you probably found out, Obama, there were 1,000 deaths with this swine flu, the H1N1, before they announced the state of emergency or whatever, and probably most people can't even remember it. And the thing about these viruses is they tend to, even in that book, the 2009 book, The End of Days, that said it would disappear as quick as it came. I mean, it really could happen. This thing could kind of peter out. Maybe as the May, June, July, perhaps. And when these things peter out, they tend to be gone. You don't hear about the SARS anymore. You don't hear about MERS or any of these things. Or the swine flu. They're all kind of ancient history. So that's kind of the positive side of this thing. But I wouldn't underestimate the, how bad it could get. I think that's the reason why the market's behaving the way it is today. But the other thing is, look, I would recommend, as I think we already mentioned this, wearing gloves, medical gloves, every time you're outside, and try not to touch your face. The other thing is the money. I would, a very simple way to disinfect, probably much better than spraying sort of toxic things on anything, is just to use a hairdryer. And this virus can't survive above 50 degrees. So, tomatoes or anything like that, exposed fruit, you could probably disinfect or put it in the microwave for a quick zap. And money as well. I think it's a worthy precaution. because obviously the thing about this is it is, you know, when you see these horrible videos of some poor guy in a train in China, you know, throwing up blood, this thing can really get into your lungs real bad and real quick, and can zap the life out of you through lack of breath. And you know, the virus can replicate extremely rapidly inside your system. So that's the real danger. You got to knock it out, you know, as quickly as possible if you get it. So it's a big fear, because nobody knows how they're going to react, how their own body's going to react to this thing. It could be your, you know, could be your time. And
they're saying mostly people with pre-existing conditions are the ones who are passing.
Yeah, I think they're just saying that. But listen, there's a lot of people, young people, who've been zapped by this thing. I wouldn't. There's nobody immune from being hit on, you know, unusually hard by it in some way or another. And I certainly wouldn't be, you know, bravado or any kind of a thing just because you're
getting on a cruise.
Yeah, well, I just don't think, you know, you might be healthy. Just to think that it's not going to get you is not a good idea. You know, I don't think it's the right approach. I think you've got to be prepared to get after it as quickly as possible if you get infected.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
So, you know, you only live once, and that's no second chances. The market's coming back now, which is kind of I really think the Fed has been asleep at the wheel here. They could have moved much more aggressively to prevent this, and I think that unfortunately we are in the ultimate 87 type scenario here today. It's finally arrived. It's not 87 light anymore. It's 87 heavy, and it's you know, it's a kind of a real nightmare scenario. If they can close everything up today, they got a chance of nipping this in the bud. That's what they tried to do on Friday, but it wasn't enough. Mm-hmm. You know, Apple looked quite good when we looked at it as a potential rally candidate, but the fact that we just you know, obliterated all the rally attempts, the record rally attempts, the zigzag type thing, is of considerable concern. We did say the market might go down another 10% from this kind of pause area, so that would take us down towards the 21,000, you know, the previous low that we hit in 2018, end of 2018. At some point, the smart money is going to say, you know, enough is enough. There's a couple of very, very smart traders, some of the smartest people in the world, are saying this is way overdone, and it could be, you know, it could come roaring back, you know, with a vengeance. This market, especially with some intervention. But
well, I mean, you know, like Dwayne said in the past, you know, the indexes particularly, you know, they're not designed to go down. They're designed to go up. Mm. And so, you know, they'll be flicking off the companies that are not doing well and just adding companies that are. And you know,
yeah, I mean, look, there's some stocks that are doing. There are some stocks that are up today. You know, like Clorox and Zoom. I think Zoom is definitely up on the day, or close to being up. You know, it was up a little bit green a while ago.
I am. Can you hear me?
Okay. Hey, Garrett. Darius.
Okay. Hi, Garrett.
Hi, John.
Cavalry to the rescue, huh?
Yeah, I guess. Kind of interesting last night. You know, I was kind of interested to, you know, is there, Dwayne, did you want to share screen?
You betcha.
I was going to show you something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy. Hang on just one sec.
All right.
I'll get. Hi, Scott.
Okay, back while Garrett's finishing up that phone call, guys, on Friday, put a post out after the market.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to send you the charts right now. Okay. Did you get a pop-up on your end?
Green there. I didn't see it.
No, I hit the wrong button. There you go. That should do it. So Friday afternoon after the market closed, there's a post in the Telegram channel regarding the gap lower open we anticipated on Sunday night and the price that we thought we would gap open to, significantly lower. We came in a little bit under that target, and well, everyone else knows the rest of the story. So Garrett, take it away.
Let me. Can you see? Are we on the screen with my quick up?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, it looks
quick
perfect.
update. Yep,
Looks
I
perfect.
see it.
I'm in the process of writing this, but I thought I'd underplay it with a title of Armageddon, Full Moon, Friday the 13th, and the Ides of March. The full moon, great looking full moon last night. Tonight, I guess, is the actual date of the full moon. Friday the 13th is this Friday, and the Ides of March are Sunday. So it probably ought to be a pretty important week. March is as John mentioned, the 6th and the 9th, kind of interesting to see that kind of an experience when the market bottomed last time. Here we are. But
they also call this moon a worm moon, and there's a couple of other names they have for it. It's pretty significant. Sign of spring. The birds. The reason they call it the worm moon is because that's when the worms start working their way to the surface or close to, and birds come down to feed. So
yeah. Well, maybe it's a dawning of a new age, But this chart here is a 30-minute chart of the Dow.
Okay.
This is Wednesday. So you had the day was positive, and then on the last two bars, they opened at their lows and for the most part closed at their highs. So very strong closing. So under normal circumstances, in a normal world, the thought would be, gee, this is supportive, and tomorrow we'll probably open higher and continue this move. Well, tomorrow happened here. 419. It opened 419 points lower, which used to be a big move. John and I can remember when that used to be 40% of the market. Anyway, then in the next 30 minutes,
I remember that too.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I was just 12 years old, but
I'm just trying to be polite. Trying to win friends and influence people here, But anyway, within that same 30-minute bar, it not only opens 419 points lower, it continues down another 422 points. So then we're kind of selling off, but lo and behold, at the end of the day on Thursday, it appears to turn around and potentially reverse and close above a prior close and break the prior bar and all the things that you think, well, maybe we've got a low here and we're going to open the next day. Well, the next day it's down 600 and I forget what it is. I got it in here somewhere. 664 points, and then falls another 231 points on the same half-hour bar. And then Friday comes along, you go, well, you know what? We got a double bottom. It's a Friday, and finally, maybe we got 5 waves down. This thing's all of a sudden turned up, But I always thought, and I looked at that, and not only have we reversed, but we've got a real strong bar, and we closed, we closed well above it. And anyway, and then today, of course, it's I haven't even bothered to check the point count, but it's what 2,000 points or something. It's 7.7% on the open down, and we've now gone down 20%, at least the futures this morning. And the last time we did that was a little over a year ago on Christmas. That was a decline that took the entire fourth quarter. It started on September 21st, ended on Christmas, and lost 20% in 65 trading days. We've done it in 14 trading days, which is about 21% of the time. So in roughly a fifth of the time we've done that. Well, what do you attribute that to? And I said, well, it's one was fear and concern, and this one's obviously panic. So, but I wanted to share with you. I'll come back on this page, but I was just going to show you what the world seems to have done here. Let me pop up this chart here. This is this is a great trend line. I shared this in, I think, my observations and some updates to clients. But here's the low, 2009. Literally 11 years ago, and this is a great trend line. It as the market comes off this low, it's real strong. It gets up to the middle of 2011 here, comes underneath the line, and has never been able to penetrate it since. And in these moves, the strong moves in 2014 leading into the 2015 high, it couldn't get above this line. It came up to the line in January of 2018 and fell back, and then finally came up to it again. And I had, like I say, pointed this out in the newsletter, and once again, with a very similar pattern at this top, as you had back here, it's come down and had a move pretty much identical percentage-wise to this one here. So what happens up here is that smart money sees this and other things and sees the market as overvalued. And typically throughout all of our lifetimes, there's a movement from stocks to bonds when one seeks safety, and from bonds back to stocks when one seeks growth and feels that it's safe to come back to the market. And I find, isn't it interesting that people are suggesting, which would seem to be a wise suggestion, let's move out of stocks and into bonds for safety, because we've come up here and this is a pretty risky place, and we ought to buy some bonds. Well, people here, and by the way, here we are, this is a weekly chart. So here we are 14 days later. And let me show you what this looks like. What have I done here? Let's see. Let me bring this over. I want to scroll down. Let's see, maybe I can do it like that. Okay. Let's fine tune this. I just did this chart last night, just out of curiosity, and you guys can probably correct me, but bonds are in $1,000 units, and they're priced in percentages. So this morning it hit 190, which means that you're paying 190%. And that would be $1,900. And then these are long-term bonds, so they're 20 to 30-year bonds. Let's say they're 25-year bonds. So what are you getting? Now we're going to move to, this is a move to safety, remember. Mm-hmm. So we're going to buy a U.S. Treasury bond because they're safe. And we're going to pay $1,900 for it right there. There's your price. Mm-hmm. And we're going to buy, say, a 25-year bond. We're going to lock in 1/3 of 1% for 25 years, which is taxable, by the way. They're not muni bonds. They're Treasury bonds. You're going to pay tax on that. And this is supposedly safe. Now, 25 years go by.
You make such a compelling argument for that.
Now, 25 years go by. Here's what you're going to get in 20. Let's take a look at the reward at the end of this magic ride. Right. We've spent $1,900 in today's dollars to move into a safe position, which will pay us $1,000 at maturity. It's like, can I sell you a bridge? I mean, is it not safer to buy possibly soybean futures? I mean, this is what they're selling as a safe investment, right? And correct me if I'm wrong on anything in here. It's costing $190, which is $1,900. You're going to hold it for 25 years, and they're going to give you back $1,000. Now, as I see things,
It used to be return. People look for return on investment. Now we're moving into, we're just hoping for a return of investment.
but
That-
you're not getting a return of
yeah,
your
exactly. That was the next
because
point. Yeah.
because your investment's $1,900, you're only getting half of
Yep.
it back, and for that risk, which is all let's say, let me tell you, I can tell you what the outcome will be. You'll put in $1,900. I will tell you the future, and I'll be correct. You're going to put in $1,900 today, and if you hold it for 25 years, you're going to get $1,000. So I'm going to guarantee you almost a 50% loss.
Mhm.
And they're going, oh yeah,
And-
okay,
and not
okay,
only
that's
that,
good. Yeah, let me rush in and do that. And then for that benefit, I'm going to pay you 1/3 of 1%, which will be taxable. Have people lost their minds?
They have.
I mean, I'm going to go out and buy one of those overnight lawyer deals so I can become a lawyer and go out to the financial community and say, pardon me, but did Goldman Sachs just sell me a safe bond to get out of my stocks here and look like genius is doing it? But they've put me into a vehicle where I've got a guaranteed loss. Did anybody bother to tell me that? And it's not a little loss, it's a 50% loss, and I can enjoy this process for the next 25 years. That's kind of like hitting yourself in the toe while somebody's pulling your wallet out of your back pocket, isn't it? Anyway, just an observation. What do I know? But it doesn't seem like a good idea to me, and somehow I'm just silly enough to think, I don't think that's moving into safety, but maybe I have, maybe in my advanced age, I've forgotten the definition of these
Do you
words.
have anything safe on your horizon?
Not that I know of.
Okay, that's a good
I
answer.
mean, Treasury
It's an
bills
honest answer.
maybe. Treasury bills maybe, but you're buying the bills of the country that has decided to take on more debt than any other country in the history of the planet, as far as we know. So, and but again, you have quality management. Possibly, should we get a Bernie Sanders or a Joe Biden's, as I understand, a very sharp individual. I'm sure, there won't be any problems if those guys get in. I'm sorry, let me pull my tongue out of my cheek here. It's just amazing. Apparently nobody's thinking anymore. I don't know if they've made it a law that you can't think, but
It's no longer
it's pretty
required.
hard. Yeah, it's apparently no longer required, and safe is certainly not safe. This is what's considered safe. A guaranteed loss of 50% of your money, where we give you absolutely nothing to take that risk. We're giving you a taxable 1/3 of 1% to step in and take that risk. Normally, in my life, if you step in to take a risk, they're paying you something far more than what you would get normally for not taking risks, right? I mean, that seems logical. Well, that's not happening, obviously not happening anymore. And anyway, but here's the last time it happened. Here's when we had a panic. This was the great credit crisis of 2008, and you spiked up and it retraced the entire move. This was 2003. It wasn't even in the Obama period, and it retraced the entire move. Here we didn't quite come up to the line, but we retraced the entire move. Here we did come up to the line, and this is probably 2016. We retraced the entire breakout and then some, and here we are now. I would think that rather than rushing in to buy these, it might be a good idea to sell them, but who knows? Anyway. That's what I had. I just wanted to point that out on bonds and on safety, because it doesn't look remarkably safe to me. But who knows? Let's see. I got to move this down. Can I do that?
Sure you can.
You know what?
I can
Why is
see the weekly chart of the S&P 500 right now.
Yeah. Let me see what else I can show you. This is kind of interesting. I just was kind of looking at volatility, which we hadn't had for so long, and all of a sudden it's come back. I haven't finished this. I stopped over here on this decline, and I got to see how much this advance is. These are half-hour bars, 30 minutes. But look at this. It's just remarkable. 2,862 points in just 12 and a half trading hours, not trading days, trading hours. Now that's almost 3 times what the entire value of this index was when, back in the pretty much throughout the 70s, from 1966 to 1983, we never really got much over got up to about 1,051 intraday in 1973, as I recall, but for the most part, we didn't get above 1,000. This thing's moving 3 times that in 12 and a half trading hours, which impresses me. And then here's the 2,400 point move, and this is only 1,300, and this is 1,800. I mean, this is just remarkable. Some of the other things, these 2 things are, how oversold are we? And the answer for me is who knows? We'll have to see. But this is the McClellan oscillator, and I went back, and here's. This is after the most overbought market in history, back in January of 2018, and the correction that followed it. Sharp, hard correction got the McClellan oscillator down to minus 339. Well, we got down to, what was it here? Oh, minus 402 down here, and we're at 368 right here. So challenging those lows. Looks like we're gonna, if we don't get down to this point here, we might get a divergence if this happens to turn up, and that would be kind of interesting to watch for. The 10-day AD line is another one that lets us see what things look like. And I went back to the Christmas low over here. Of a little over a year ago.
2018?
This was down just at the end of the year when we dropped and lost 20%. We've lost 20% over here. And on the first decline, we came exactly down to where we were. And now we're a little bit below it. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of confirming the, degree. This is, I just threw this in here. This is just a chart I had connecting this low with the October 3rd low as kind of an important point. We dropped down to that, and it didn't do much. We blew through it, but we paused there for a day. We came down here to, I think, make an A wave. I think this is what's happening. We rallied right up to hit this very important line from underneath, and it turned it away and for a B wave, and now we're making a C wave. I think if this is a 1, 2, 3, then look out below. But I think it's going to be an ABC. We'll see. I started getting, when you get a coronavirus like this, I think any of us think we know anything about it are sadly mistaken. And if we're depending upon our news, then we might as well go buy bonds. This is, I looked at sources from China, not on your typical news, and was seeing this 3 or 4 weeks ago as something very, very serious. I mean, it was, I was heard from those sources that the amount of, they were reporting, there's only 32 deaths in China or something like this about a month ago. And, the numbers were not there. And people there were saying, no, I can see 32 deaths. It's like, come on. Anyway, it was quite interesting. And then when you see, did you see, you're aware of Dean Kuntz's 1981 book called, what was it called? Eyes of Darkness, where he talks about a pandemic virus that takes over things that happened to come out of Wuhan, and they called it Wuhan 400. I mean, and it did this in 1981.
No,
so,
I've not read that. We did share let me find, let me see if I can, you can go ahead and talk while I'm trying to find it. It was a quote from a book written some years ago. But
Yeah, Dean Koontz was the author of that, and the
I'll
the
find
quotes
it.
in there were pretty interesting. I sent I might have sent you some. I mean, it's like beyond coincidence, and lo and behold, this happens. Now I hear that there's, I see people in the stores. My wife was telling me yesterday that people are going in the stores and they're pulling their sleeves down to grab, pulling their sleeve down over their hands and then grabbing the cans of whatever they're going to buy. And I'm like, well, are you going to do that? Are you going to do that when you go home? I mean, are you going to touch the can and open it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things like, does this make sense? I'm going like, is the virus here? I mean, fortunately, I haven't gone out anywhere, so I don't know if the virus is here. My one neighbor over there got back from Hawaii a little while ago, and that's probably my greatest concern. But I think there's some things I was reading. There's all sorts of stuff if you get away from the regular news. They say that if you intravenously take, and this is not a suggestion, this is a comment. If you intravenously take vitamin C in large doses, it's apparently there are some things that are highly effective, but I have no idea about that. These things are tough. As John mentioned, I think we have to assume that I mean, they say, people, who's likely to be most harmed by this? Well, the elderly and people with what was it, preconditions? What are preconditions?
I
I've
think
got a
anyone
cold,
with
or
an autoimmune
you're
deficiency.
sickly, or you've got an autoimmune deficiency or something.
Right.
But my guess is if this thing gets in you somehow and gets lodged in there, as John mentioned, I mean, some of these people. There's another thing that I mentioned, that where you've got, and again, like I say, the research on this is very interesting. Look at where this is happening. It's happening where there's 5G. Now, I don't know what to make of that and so forth, but the coincidence is incredible. Wuhan is a complete 5G province. They're there. And the comment was kind of interesting, and one person made an observation. They had pictures. I don't know if you've seen the pictures of people walking and then all of a sudden falling on the ground.
Right.
Now, viruses don't do that. Viruses can hit you and hit fast, but they don't hit you in mid-stride. What happens is that you start to feel bad and you sit down, and that's when they're coming on real fast.
Right.
You're not falling over in mid-stride with the virus. Now, is that something that 5G? I don't know, but I looked at it and I thought, you know what? That's not the stupidest thing I've ever read, and it's very interesting, how that kind of correlates. But there are some very interesting articles on this, and I think
Go ahead, finish your thought.
my thought is simply that basically. At least speaking for myself, I've done a lot of reading on this, and I don't think I know anything about it. I think we're going to find out once this is over. If we're lucky, we'll find out a lot more than we know right now. And I don't know, what type of precautions you can take. I'm just stupid enough to think if I've got plastic gloves on, and this virus is out there, and I touch something, isn't it on the plastic glove? Who cares if it's not on my hand? Right? I mean, in other words,
I hear you.
if I'm using the plastic gloves or whatever, the rubber gloves to protect my hands, if I touch something that would have gotten on my hand, isn't it on the glove?
I think these methods of protecting yourself are kind of being thrown out there as a panacea, just to create widespread hysteria.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is, some of the other things that made sense to me too is that you can create a widespread hysteria and get a whole bunch of thinking about this, you know, isn't it true that on a mass basis, I mean, they've proved this over and over, you know, you are what you think, or, you know, those type of think and grow rich, you know, whatever you put in your mind, you know, you're going to help to create. That's pretty much a proven thing. So if they can get that out there and get everybody afraid, you're probably going to create a problem.
There was a book,
You know.
Garrett, called End of Days. It was a New York Times. It was on the New York Times best sellers list, written by a New York Times best-selling author, Sylvia Browne. The title of the book is End of Days: Predictions and Prophecies About the End of the World. And I'm quoting from the book. When I take the charts back, I'll show it to you. But in this book, it says, in around 2020, a severe pneumonia-like illness will spread throughout the globe, attacking the lungs and the bronchial tubes and resisting all known treatments. Almost more baffling than the illness itself will be the fact that it will suddenly vanish as quickly as it arrived, attack again 10 years later, and then disappear completely.
I believe that's a quote, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that's the exact quote out of Eyes of Darkness by Dean Koontz.
Is it really?
Somebody, depending, I don't know where you got that.
It's
but,
just, it's a book. If you can Google Sylvia Browne, End of Days.
Yeah, but did somebody?
Is she quoting his book, or is he?
Google the book? Because that quote that you read is the one that came out of Koontz's book.
Well, I'm looking at the book right now. I've got the book cover, and then I've got the book opened to the page.
Wow, that's interesting.
I'll send it to you in an email.
Yeah, that's interesting because I can send you that one back. I saw it a couple of weeks ago. I might have mentioned it on your show the last time, but Koontz, very, very similar quote. And this is what, I've done lots of decades of research on this kind of stuff. And, everybody says, conspiracy theory. In other words, if you look at conspiracy theory, you must be a nut, right? Well, wouldn't the people who are, if there was such a thing as conspiracy, and by the way, isn't a conspiracy at every major peak? In other words, I don't think JFK committed suicide. I think, we've been warned about this by Eisenhower and JFK and even Aldous Huxley. But of course, the people in charge are going to make that sound like what crazy people do. And why wouldn't they? Otherwise, people are going to go out and uncover what's being done. But isn't it interesting that now 2 books have basically said pretty much exactly what's happening here with this situation and when it's going to happen? I think we are left to having to chalk that off to coincidence. But be nice to be an investigative reporter that had a lot of sources. That'd be a fun one to take a look at. By the way, this market is not roaring to the upside at the moment.
I just emailed you that quote from the book and the cover of the book that it came out of.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
So
and I'll find that other one and send it to you because it's almost verbatim from what I read.
Well, I'm wondering if he took her prophecy and worked it into a novel, or if she took his novel and turned it into a prophecy. I don't know.
When did she write her book? When did you say?
Pull up that if you got that email there that I just sent you. Let me bring it back up.
Yeah, let me. I can get to that quickly.
Let me Google End of Days.
I got a feeling that one is a little.
Sylvia
okay,
Browne.
here it is. Boy, this is almost the same. This is amazing.
Originally published July 2008.
Okay, that other one was 1981.
Okay.
I'll send you. That's very interesting that you've. See,
was one of our partners that originally spotted it and posted it in the Telegram channel.
In around 2020. Now I'll find that other one because it says almost identical. In around 2020, same wording. Wow.
Interesting.
This is fascinating. I've let me see. I think I may have sent that to you, but I've got to go back and see when it was. I'll take a look and see. Anyway, but that's about all I've got. It should be an exciting week. It's certainly starting up that way, and I presume most of us would prefer a different form of excitement. But
yeah, I think so.
you know, I'll tell you what, I'd rather see the market move than have it not move. But I'm going to see if I can find this, Dwayne, and I'll when I do, I'll send that to you. I think it was back there in time, but it caught me. It really caught me by surprise. I saw that and I thought, boy, this is remarkable.
Now the next curve on the S&P is at 13%. Last night it was at 7%, or the last one was at 7%, correct? And so the next one's 13%. Our lowest weekly zone for this week is 2623/24. This is
Wow.
a 30-minute chart of the S&P that I have up right now.
I just found it.
You found it? Okay.
Yes, and let me. This is really something. If you're looking at your quote, are you able to look at the one that you sent me?
Uh-huh.
I'll read this quote.
In fact, I'm gonna drag it up and I'm gonna show everybody in the audience on the screen. There we go. It's blown up real big. Everybody can see it. So go ahead, read your version.
My quote says this, and I'll read it exactly as apparently it was sent. In around 2020, a severe pneumonia-like illness will spread throughout the globe, attacking the lungs and the bronchial tubes and resisting all known treatments. Almost more baffling than, and I can't read it because they've written through it, circling this, suddenly vanish as quickly as it arrived, attack again 10 years later, and then disappear completely.
I wonder if in her book, if she's quoting his book. Can you see my screen right now? Because I'm noticing at the very top of the page, it says described, comma, but they're worth mentioning. And in other words, I'm seeing now that perhaps she's not saying this is her prophecy, but I need to see what's on page 311 of that book.
Now, let me read a little bit more. There was another thing that was sent. This was out of a Florida newspaper where somebody quoted this. And this is part of the novel. And it says, to understand that, I have no idea what they're talking about, but let me wait till you hear this. To understand that, Dombe said, you have to go back 20 months. It was around then that a Chinese scientist named Li Chen defected to the United States carrying a diskette record of China's, this is 1981, remember,
Okay.
of China's most important and dangerous new biological weapon in a decade. They call the stuff Wuhan-400. Because it was developed at their RDNA labs outside of the city of Wuhan, and it was the 400th viable strain of man-made microorganisms created at that research center. Wuhan 400 is a perfect weapon. It afflicts only human beings. No other living creature can carry it. And like syphilis, Wuhan 400 can't survive outside a living human, and that's all it was cut off at that point. But I mean, this kind of stuff, the point I want to make on this, that this was done back in 1981, so we're talking about 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
This coincidence is one thing. I'm here to tell you that this isn't coincidence. And I'll stop there.
Doesn't smell like it.
But you don't have coincidence where you hit it to the day. In and around 2020, it's like, Why don't you just say 2020? You know when you're going to do it. Wuhan. There it is.
Okay, Bill B just posted. Hang on, let me check your post, Bill. He just sent us a post regarding what we're talking about. Hang on. The Eyes of Darkness. Okay.
That's it.
So
That's the book.
Thank you very much for that, Bill. They call the stub Wuhan 400 because it was developed. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it. The Eyes of Darkness, a novel written by Dean Koontz in 1981, describes a killer virus named Wuhan 400. It's a perfect weapon. It afflicts only human beings, and no other living creatures can carry it. And like syphilis, well, everything you just read, it's right there.
Yeah.
It's right.
Let me hang on just a sec. Move that, if you don't mind, move that up just a little bit. I want to copy that right there. Let me
Here, let me
see if I can
expand it a
copy.
little bit and make it a little easier.
Oh yeah, that'd be great if you can do that.
How's that?
Yeah, that's good. And
In
give
fact,
me
I can
just
even
one-
do that.
That's outstanding. Hang on, just give me 1 second. I'll be able to copy that because I think this is worth. I'll tell you what. If I was a journalist, rather than doing what most of them do,
I play
which
one
is
on the
apparent.
radio.
I think you could have a field day with this, although your life expectancy might be limited. This is amazing. This is amazing stuff. I think I think the term "we live in interesting times" is going to turn out to be an understatement pretty shortly. But as far as being on the Christian radio network, I think this is very interesting. The friend of mine who's very good in astrology, I was talking to him. He says Monday's going to be a big day, and I said, "Yeah, I think it is too." And he said, "I said, what's the astrological thing?" He says, "Well, it's kind of spiritual." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well," he says, "it's hard to say." He says, "It's kind of Armageddon-like." I said, "Well, that's not the kind of spiritual I was hoping for." But the thought is, maybe we've got Armageddon wrong, and maybe Armageddon is ridding us of those quote unquote controllers that have been here seemingly. You can go back a few hundred years where it's very clear, but some people make the argument that you go back, you can go way back, and maybe that's what that's all about.
Now, supposedly, according to the screenshot I have up now of a tweet sent over, Bill, I think this is the tweet you were referencing. I'm not positive, but it was mentioned in the Dean Koontz book in 1981. It was mentioned on a Simpsons episode in 1995.
Isn't that interesting?
Soros brought it up November 2019 at Davos.
Let me grab that one, if you don't mind, too. This is, now, by the way, if you've ever done any reading on the controllers, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call it, and again, I've got decades of reading in that because it's quite interesting. One of the things that they say, that they claim, not us, but them, right, is that they have a code of ethics. And it's, oh, really? Well, why are you having so many wars and killing everybody and doing all these? Kind of an interesting. You guys sure you know what that word means? But anyway, apart from that, they have a code of ethics where they have to tell us. And I don't know. I can't remember the. There was a pastor who worked on the oil fields up in Alaska. Whenever when did that start? 78? I don't remember. But when they started doing the pipeline.
Yeah, the pipeline. And it's about the time, right around the time I entered the Navy.
Yeah, I think it was late 70s, 78. But
yeah, 76, I think, was when I joined.
His name will come to me, Lindsay Williams, I believe. and he's a pastor, and he went up and took a job to go up and be the pastor for the people working on the pipeline. And while he was there, some of these top oil guys, you know, he would sit and have dinner with the management guys, and some of these guys were part of the high end guys who who pull the strings, part of the elite. And he said that he over his time there, he befriended a couple of these people, and they would tell him of events to come. And if you pull up an oil chart, I can't remember, I think it was around 2008, 2009. Remember when oil went up about $100 a barrel? Yes. And then of course the people, there didn't appear to be any reason for it. So if you're an analyst, you have to make a reason because it happened, right? In other words, if you're working for Merrill Lynch or Goldman Sachs and you've got a 100-point move in oil, you better come up with a reason for that happening. Right. So they all did. They, you know, as good analysts, they all did. Well, it must have been, you know, the Straits of Hormuz, or, you know, whatever, you know. So they come up with all the reasons. Now, Lindsey Williams, and I heard this guy Williams say this. I didn't know anything about him. And I heard him say it, and I saw it go up, and I thought, wow, that's just crazy for somebody to say that the thing's going to go up that much, and then it does for no reason. Then Williams comes out and says, I talked to my guys again, and they told me it's going to go down as fast as it came up and may even go lower. And that was, and I thought, well, that's really insane, you know. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. I can tell you when that, I was just, it's funny, I was just looking at this chart last night, but it's, here, let me pull up, I'll give you the, I don't have an oil chart, but I can pull up a USO chart and go back in time.
I can pull up crude. Tell me what time frame you want.
I'm going to do monthly charts here, I guess, and that'll, or weekly, but a monthly chart will tell you right away. I'll tell you exactly. The low was made in January of 07. And I have it.
Here's crude. Let me put it on a monthly.
Oh yeah. Go if you can go back. It's just remarkable when you see this.
Okay.
Now you just got to go back.
Now I've got to get it on the continuous contract. Okay.
This is worth looking at, and I'll tell you the story.
Tell me how far back we want to go now.
You're there, right there.
Right there.
Now see that. Look at 2000. Now look at that. See that low right here?
This one?
Does my arrow show up?
No, I can't see. No, I've got the charts now. So
look at the low in 2007, right between that 2006 and 2008.
Right there.
Now,
that's January 1 of 2007.
Somewhere around that time, Lindsey Williams says, I've heard it on good source from my two sources that oil's going to go up about $100 a barrel, somewhere around there. Well, look what it did, and then it's up there. I mean, here's just an enormous move, and remember, it's come from being at, what was it at, $20 a barrel in 2002, something like that. I mean, I remember getting gas when I lived in Incline Village in Nevada by Lake Tahoe, getting gas in Carson City for 99 cents a gallon. So at that time,
I think it got just below $2 here. I don't think we ever saw anything that cheap.
Yeah, well, this is back again. This is back there.
But I'm $2 at the pump should be right around the corner from here.
Yeah, and in California, I mean, my gas out here is, I don't know, $3.50 or something. It's insane. Anyway, but then Lindsey Williams, near that high there, after 2008, he comes out and says that his people had told him that not only now it's had this remarkable move to the upside that everybody's scrambling and trying to find out why, and he comes out and says his people told him that not only is gold going to now go down, it's going to go down faster than it came up and probably lower. Look at that chart.
Yep. At this point right here, people in Phoenix were literally giving away their Hummers. I mean,
yeah. Oh, yeah, that's
you
right.
could buy them for pennies on the dollar.
That's right. And down at the bottom, somebody just made a pretty good buy.
They certainly did.
Yeah, but yeah, I remember that. That's right. Everybody was just getting rid of. But it's incredible when you hear these things and you see. The reason I brought it up is that Soros's name was there, and Soros is out talking in Davos. And isn't it funny that these things just coincidentally happen? This is information from elite people. So if somebody says, "Oh, that's all conspiracy," I said, "Fine, you go ahead and think that." And I said, "I'm sure that, if you were reincarnated back in the day of Caesar in Rome when he got stabbed with the E2 Brute, I'm sure that's conspiracy too. I mean, that is conspiracy. That's what it is. It happens, it happens. It happens throughout history. It's as real as the cycle. And yet, she don't say anything. Soros warns the fate of the world is at stake in 2020. Thanks, George. Accuses Facebook of working to re-elect Trump. Boys, Russia doesn't allow Soros in their country. Maybe we should learn. Anyway, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. But to think that some of these people don't know and don't have information on this stuff is probably not a correct thought. But again, we've been so dumbed down and so taken by the news for such a long time that it's really created this effect where Democrats never would have considered a Bernie Sanders. In fact, they never would have considered a Joe Biden at the stage he's at now. I mean, it just wouldn't have happened. They were conservative people. So this is a lot of this stuff has been engineered for a purpose, and they've told us the purpose. The one thing they've all done, Republicans or Democrats, has told us the purpose, and the purpose is New World Order. They couldn't be any clearer about it. I thought, there's nothing to argue about. They've told us. We don't have to find out what the goal is and be a great investigative person. They're telling you. New World Order. What's New World Order? Well, it's a dictatorship where they run the show, and you can kiss your individual rights goodbye. And half of the people in this country are going, "Oh, okay. Well, let's make that happen." And that's exactly what happened. When the founding fathers and others decided to leave, England, merry old England, for the New World. They were just tired of it. The problem that we have is there isn't a new world to go to. So we either have to, stand our ground and fight for freedom, or be comfortably prepared to be to no longer have individual rights. Or
that's correct.
In my case, I'm kind of hoping for divine intervention. So anyway, with that. It just, we've got to, this is how the cycle works. It forces us to do what we need to do. I found that I can't, I'm completely ineffective in being able to communicate this stuff to people who choose not to believe it, whether you show them facts or not. So I said, I can't do it, but the good Lord can do it. He says, I'll give you a depression for about 10 years, and you guys will start thinking right, about 10 years down the road, you'll be thinking right again.
Yeah,
so, you'll learn to conserve things. You'll learn to, place value on things. Families will come together. Prices will come down to reasonable levels. You'll learn to, have appreciation for and gratitude for things rather than saying the world owes me something and so forth. So that's the cycle, and it just happens over and over again. And when you're right in the middle of it, I think the good Lord has made it such that you can't see it when when it's you going through it. You can't see it.
Right.
I mean, unless you're really looking, and you're a weirdo like me that looks at that stuff and thinks that there may be some benefit in looking at it. But for the most part, our news media and the people pulling the strings are saying, yeah, don't be looking over there. You want to look over here. This is where you want to look, and an awful lot of people are looking there. So, anywho, well, thank you for allowing me
today.
to.
No.
Yeah, boy, I got a whole bunch of stuff from you and on this. This is really interesting. I wasn't aware of that. I think I'd heard something about that in the book, but I hadn't seen that quote. And when you see quotes that are identical in a couple of different books, you have to start.
One's quoting the other. I'll have to.
Yeah, that's got to be
that
the case.
preceding page to see what the lead up was to that.
Yeah, there must that. Hopefully, I'm sure that's the case. That's pretty much got to be the deal. But it's interesting stuff, isn't it? When you see something like this, and you almost wonder if, gee, maybe some people knew about that before. Kind of like 9/11. William Cooper, in his book, very clearly warned of such an event coming up, and then it happens, and supposedly there were people on the buildings filming it before the first plane hit, and other such things. So there's a lot of interesting stuff going on out there that we probably ought to be all taking a look at. So,
interesting.
Anywho, well,
to say the least.
Thanks so much, my friend. I appreciate
thank you, Garrett.
having a chance to share time with you.
All right, my friend. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, guys. Last night's Concierge Trade Alert for Crude. Consider being short 29.35. Now, it didn't look like a real big move, but follow the cursor. Right there in this 30-minute candle, price dropped from our trigger at 29.35 to 28.35 and beyond. That's $1,000 per contract move. We are in the land of giants. The swing low was 27.34. Now, that right there, just to show you how huge this market is. It's a $2,000 per contract move. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And the counter trend trade that developed out of that low was right here. Pull right back up to the VBC. That's what we expect. Price gets above it, price pulls away, price pulls back, it holds, and then it gives us a long opportunity to the upside. Even entering as late as this candle, once you get above red and climbing, or red and sideways, the high there, see the low of that candle, or the open was 33.18, the high was 34.88. $33.18 was the open. $34.88. It's at $1.70. $1,700 per contract traded in that one candle. So, needless to say, attempting to navigate and trade these markets at this time is not advisable. No one ever wants to hear that, but it's just the truth. You need to be patient. Now, when the dust settles, this will lead to some incredible trading opportunities. everywhere you look will be opportunity. Okay? We'll have up days, we'll have down days, but markets will get back to their quote-unquote normal rhythm. And when they do, we'll be here. And we'll take advantage of every opportunity that comes our way. Here's gold trading sideways, not quite sure exactly what to do. Our long on gold last night, you can probably guess. 1704. Price walks right up to it. It doesn't pass the sniff test, and it heads in the other direction. The short trigger was 1665, which is right above there. 1665. Swing low from 65. We dropped to 58. That's a $700 per contract move. Important prices, important areas are almost always tested again and again and again and again and even again. That's the truth about trading. Okay. All right. Good word for the day. Everybody could use a good word right about now. Yeah, we started talking the other day about marriage. This is part 2. Gentlemen, this is for you. Proverbs 5:18. Be happy with the wife you married. The Bible says in Ephesians 5:25, husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself to her. In every wedding ceremony I've ever performed, I always include that. And since the disciples were the original church founders, let's look again at how Jesus treated them. He spent time with them, talking and listening. Old Testament law required, when a man has taken a new wife, he shall not go out to war or be charged with any business. He shall be free at home 1 year and bring happiness to his wife. That's Deuteronomy 24:5. Imagine a whole year of doing nothing but loving and getting to know each other. Why did God plan it that way? Because no battle you'll ever fight and no business you'll ever be involved in is more important than building a lasting relationship with your spouse. A leading cause of divorce today is among couples who don't set aside time at the end of the workday to sit down together, free from the television and telephone, to share their thoughts and feelings. Do you know what never grows old? Caring, communicating, assuring your spouse that of all the places that you could be right now, you'd rather be with them. Many times your wife will share problems with you, but it's not because she wants you to fix them. Truth be told, some of the problems she discussed with you months ago remain unfixed, and she might even be okay with that. What she's looking for is empathy, not sympathy, understanding, and support. When you listen attentively to her concerns, she feels loved and valued, and 9 times out of 10, the problem fades into obscurity. It's a big return on a small investment. And that's our good word for the day. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.